mine. It's Marissa Liesenfelt.
Well, my first job out of college, I was I worked for Playboy. I was actually on Instagram during the pandemic, and I saw Natalie Ellis of BuzzFeed had posted that she needs a chief operating officer. Yeah, and that is consulting, helping CEOs with their operations, their teams, their setup, especially in online businesses. They're such visionaries. You know, it's interesting because working with visionary CEOs, I actually don't think you should structure their vision. I think it's more important to let them flow, like let their vision land the way it lands or come out the way it comes out, because that's actually the magic of it all. That tomorrow's not guaranteed. Yeah. So just do what you're doing today and live for your life today as if this is the last chance you have.
Today I have a very special guest, and it's a dear friend of mine. It's Marissa Liesenfelt. I met Marissa about 1.5 years ago at one of the retreats I host for entrepreneurs, and she got introduced to me through Carla Biesinger. Yeah. That's also a good friend of mine. And she said, this lady, she's moving to Lisbon, she's coming to Europe, you gotta meet her. She's a powerhouse, her energy is incredible. As a person that you'll really like. And just as a woman, she helps many women getting the encouragement and the power and the confidence in themselves to really build and scale a business. She's an operations expert, a business coach, and she has been the former COO of a multimedia imperium, which is called Boss Babe, which I have been following for many years. And I thought actually that I would never meet someone who would be behind the scenes. And she ended up on my retreat and now on my couch.
Yeah.
So Marissa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited because, as you know, yesterday at dinner, actually I said, like, listen, I worship people like you. You are good at things that I am really not good at. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and go a little bit more into depth who you are as a person and what brought you here today. So can you share a little bit more about your life story? Very short, it's a mini podcast.
Okay.
Around 1 minute.
Okay.
And what brought you here today professionally?
Yep. Okay. So the quick story is I had a pretty traditional American sort of start to things, university into corporate. After a few years in corporate, I realized this doesn't light me up. I knew even at a young age it wasn't for me. So I started then moving into smaller businesses. And that's where, you know, when you move into a small business, you learn so much, right? Because you're wearing so many hats. And I was paired up with different CEOs along the way. And at a point, I had gained a lot of experience. And I have kind of a knack for sort of the operations, organization, business strategy. And I paired up with the CEO at an advertising agency, and him and I together then really like built up that agency with the team, of course, as well. And you know, after a bit doing that, many years, I was kind of like, all right, it's time for my next chapter. I was ready for something different, and I was actually on Instagram during the pandemic, and I saw Natalie Ellis of BuzzFeed had posted that she needs a chief operating officer. And I read the job description and I was like, yeah, like I can do this. And I had also followed them for some time and like had an affinity with them, I felt like, as an audience viewer. So I whipped up a resume, sent it over. She responded right away, interviewed, got the job, then sort of started my online business trajectory. And that's where I really learned so much about online business and where I really fell in love with this industry as well. After a bit, I decided, you know, after a couple of years, it was time for me to make my next move, which is go on my own, because I really love pairing with CEOs and helping them in their business and helping them scale and grow and build teams. And this way, on my own, I can work with many different people in many different types of businesses. I still focus online mostly, but yeah, so that's like the quick, long, and short of it. Personally, I, grew up in the U.S. about 1.5 years ago. I moved to Europe, to Lisbon. Kind of changed my life in that way too. So I'm a manifesting generator, Gemini, like I change things up.
Just like me.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the, 60-second version.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And you had such an incredible journey. And I'm going back to the little Marissa who started working and starting to get her first job. Okay. Can you share me, what was your first job? How much money did you make?
Well, my first job out of college, I was actually I worked for Playboy, and I was
one of the girls or
no, in the executive office. I was headquarters. So headquarters were in Chicago, which is where I'm from, and where I was living. And I actually started. It was random. I started a temp job, and they placed me as an executive assistant, which is actually a great place to start for somebody that wants a job as a COO. It's like a perfect place to start. It's actually my first CEO pairing I had was Christy Hefner.
How old were you?
20.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
I've never heard this about you. This is
Yeah,
really cool,
yeah.
actually.
So she's Hugh Hefner's daughter,
Wow.
was running the business. It was still publicly traded at that time. So I learned so much being her executive assistant. I started temp, I got hired permanent. And yeah, my first few years were incredible because I just learned everything about business through the eyes of a CEO, which is probably what started me on my journey.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And can I ask you, how much money did you make?
Oh, how much money?
Yeah.
Gosh, it was probably like 38 grand a year.
Okay. It's not bad for a starting job, let's say.
I mean, it was the US, yeah.
US, yeah.
Not great for the US, but
Okay.
I mean, it's fine. It's appropriate for that, phase of a career.
And stuff
But I
like
definitely had a lot of roommates and, not a lot of money and stuff like that. So,
A very cool experience. I never knew that about you.
Yeah.
And a perfect first job. I was just a waitress. I think. No, I
Oh, you know what? Okay. I went first job like after college.
Yeah.
My true first job, I was also a waitress.
okay.
So maybe I should have started
Fix you
there.
really well.
Yeah.
By the way, like we're both social and can, deal with people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's also like actually a great job for everyone who's watching and listening and is really young and wants to gain people skills. Being a waitress
Yes.
or working in hospitality is one of the best first steps you can take. You
Agreed.
can deal with people, groups, sell, have customer service skills, basically.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing. So looking at that, and now you are self-employed in your own business.
Yes.
You have actually an 8-figure business.
That is the agency that I'm an owner in.
Because you have 2 businesses,
Yes, right.
So can you tell a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the agency is the agency I was with for many, many years and gained equity ownership in that business. So I still sit on the board. I'm not in the day-to-day anymore, but I am still owner, and that's the 8-figure business. And then my business, I am still building and scaling, but that is the one I started about a year and a half ago. So yeah, and that is consulting, helping CEOs with their operations, their teams, their setup, their basically helping them get out of the headaches of the day-to-day because so many of the people I work with, especially in online businesses, they're such visionaries. That's how they got started.
Yeah.
And then they find themselves dragged down into the day-to-day and the admin and the team, and they, it just kind of crushes them.
Yeah.
So I'm there to help kind of pull them back out through like delegation strategies and like other ways of running a business. I know how to run a business, right? So they should be, a lot of times marketing is a strength of theirs as well, but like, being the visionary and actually pushing the business forward while the business supports that vision.
Yeah, and it's a super important role. We've been talking about that actually for the whole week. You gave a talk also about that. So let's say that the business owner is growing, right? So they pass 100K, let's say they go to 300K, and they really see like, okay, there's too many things coming on my plate, and they want to grow, right? And they're alone. What are let's say, the 3 tips that you can give to business owners who are in that position?
That the issue is that they want to grow, but they're feeling too alone. And
too alone and overwhelmed. Obviously, also working with someone like you. But what are 3 actionable steps that people like me could do, for example?
Yeah. Well, the first one is to figure out what are you spending your time on that is not actually growing the business and is not actually pushing anything forward, because I guarantee there's things you're doing in your day that's actually just the grinding kind of like gears of it all and not actually moving anything forward. So it's identifying first, like, where are you stuck and what are those things that we need to figure out to get off your plate? And then it's, okay, like these are the things. Usually in a scaling, kind of early scaling business, like before you're maybe at the 7+ figure mark where you have like a little bit more of a hierarchy, you're going to most likely try to find somebody that has a lot of different skill sets, is very malleable, is interested in learning and curious and coachable, and they have skills, they're smart, but they're going to be learning on the job with you a little bit, but they're taking those things off your plate, right? So that's kind of the next step. And then from there, it's once you do get to be in the seat where you're driving the business forward, you're usually then making more money actually. So now you're able to kind of hire in a little bit more of a structure and a little bit more specialists and that's when you really start to scale.
Amazing. And like, let's say that people are watching or listening and say like, wow, what Marissa does, it really fits well with my profile. I'm a person who always, automatically supports visionaries. I'm the person who goes to the boss and say, oh, I have these ideas. How can I support you, make it happen? And they're just like naturally organizing everything, very structured, and like, wow, I didn't know this was a profession.
Yeah.
How can they get into what you are doing right now?
Honestly, I feel like the best place to start, there's 2 places, actually 2 things I did in my career. The 2 best training grounds for being a chief operating officer or an operator of a business like this One would be an executive assistant, learn what their life is like. I mean, it was like invaluable for me to have spent years working next to a CEO and understanding what that was as the very first thing I did.
Yeah.
Because then I just got business at a very different level. I matured very quickly.
Yeah.
But then secondly, it's also being a project manager. And once you learn how to manage, because as a project manager, you're not only like having to systematize and organize things and make a vision come to life, you're also managing a team to make that happen. It's the most valuable experience you could have as COO. I think it's absolutely on the ladder up. So that would be my next advice, is be a project manager and understand what it's like to manage teams to a common goal, and, you know, take a lot of maybe vision that doesn't have a lot of structure to it and create structure for it and actually make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you're talking about vision a lot, right? How would you structure a vision for, like, how would you help a CEO structure a vision in order to share it with the company, with the COO, to help them make the CEO make it happen, let's say? So are there any pillars that you can give to people who want to create a vision? What are the things that they should focus on, or what should they write about?
You know, it's interesting because working with visionary CEOs, I actually don't think you should structure their vision. I think it's more important to let them flow, like let their vision land the way it lands or come out the way it comes out, because that's actually the magic of it all. And, you know, we were maybe talking a little bit about this last night, but I think some of my best techniques for working with visionaries is, I know they need to have their ideas and I know they need that kind of like playground to do that. But they also need somebody that can catch that ball and make it happen. But when they're in that mode, I don't ever put constraints around it, right? Like I just let them be, and then I let them vision, and then I take that and then figure out, okay, now how do I put structure to this vision? So I actually wouldn't suggest the founder to put structure to it. I would suggest they have somebody that can take their wild ideas and then create a plan or a structure to that, and then play it back and say, hey, like, I think this is what you're trying to get to, right? Like, I know you had these ideas. I think these would be the ones to prioritize and kind of help them shape their vision into something that's actionable. But that's actually how I would approach. I don't know if that totally answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. It needs some flexibility and creativity.
Yeah.
If you structure too much, you maybe cut off the creativity of the vision.
That's it. Yeah. Right? So I don't think the visionary should be structured. I think somebody should take their vision and then put structure to it.
I like this. I want to work with you. That's so weird. Like literally, I'm walking from the auditorium here and I'm like, I think 6 ideas, and I'm like texting to my team and I'm writing it down, and like, my head is just going the whole day. Some things work, some things don't, some things I know we're not ready for yet. But it is so crucial for our growth. And I need to want to hear it. It's like amazing. It's really very calming for me to talk with someone like you.
You know, I will say this though. Okay, so going back to your question about the structure and what you just said, a really effective way to manage the day, like the daily ideas against long-term ideas, and like what should we be doing now versus later, is the traction EOS methodology, which many of us use in my role. I actually adapted a bit for these types of businesses. But basically what that is helping you do is say, okay, you're catching all these ideas and then you're kind of organizing them into, is this a now thing? Is this a later thing? Is this who knows if we'll even do this thing, but it's a cool idea, you know, and we'll put that in a certain bucket and like revisit it. But then you have rhythms around when you actually kind of revisit these things, right? So it's like quarterly, you're looking at the things that you had before versus the things you're doing now, making calls around, you know, what's the right thing to do based on like what our goals are for this quarter and year. So that actually does put some structure to it as well. But it still comes after the idea phase though.
You know what is interesting? As you were talking about this, I have just an idea for a product about this. Honestly, I'm just thinking when you were talking about it, I'm like, we should create a notebook for CEOs which gives that structure. Okay, ideas, drop it, and now, later, priority, not like how you instruct. This is great. Like the CEO notebook. We should create it. Buy it. If you see it. We're gonna launch it. And she's like, no, this is not a priority. See the difference how the mind works.
Yes.
So something juicy. So you don't have to name names, but what is the most difficult situation you have been in as a COO and working with a CEO?
I mean, gosh, I think the most difficult is when you have potentially like 2 CEOs or co-founders or you know, people that share the interest in the company and they don't have the same vision. And you're sort of catching vision from 2 sides in very different ways and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I mitigate this and how do I, you know, manage this? Because I know they're 2 two totally different visions. So
it comes back to vision again.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's why it's so important for a company to have a shared vision. If there are co-founders or there are other stakeholders, board members, whatever, if there isn't that like kind of singular shared vision, it's very, very difficult. And then you don't actually, make the progress you want to make. So that was definitely the most difficult, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. All comes down to vision. Write down your vision.
Yeah.
That's the whole takeaway. That's awesome. So for anyone who's listening or watching and they want just to start also like an online business, because both of us have the location and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you realize it. For me, sometimes I forget about it. I live the life that many people dream of.
Yeah.
I can just grab my laptop and I go for a month to Thailand and I host an event in Madeira Island and I actually do whatever I want, whenever I want. I still work, obviously, but I do have a lot of freedom.
Right.
So for anyone who would like to get started, what could you share with them based on your experience?
In online business specifically, just or like remote
location events. Yeah.
I mean, I'd say the first place to start for somebody, if you need to be making money consistently right away, would be to identify what is a skill that I have that somebody else needs that doesn't require me to be anywhere physically, right? Yeah. So that's the first step. I mean, it sounds very simple, but if you're great at design, if you're great at, writing, if you're great at whatever you're great at, start there. Yeah. Start to get money. Because my biggest philosophy when you're starting a business is you don't want to be operating out of fear and scarcity the whole time, because it's going to limit your vision. It's going to limit, what you're bringing out. So I always suggest find a way to make enough money that your bills are covered, you can live your life, right? And you're okay. And that might be doing something that is not the end goal or the ultimate vision, right? But it's at least giving you breathing room. Yeah. So then you can actually innovate the rest of it and, and actually put that innovation energy into it versus the scarcity energy of I'm scared because I have to make money, know? So I would say start with something that you can monetize, a skill you can monetize right away. And then slowly but surely you can work on, okay, what is the bigger vision? And it depends on what that is, what, the next steps are. But there's always such great, thought leaders and people to model after. And I'm a huge fan of studying the success leaves clues. We've all heard it, right? Study the successful people that do what you ultimately is similar something to what you want to do. What is it? What is it about them, And I'd say too, one last thing is one of the things I see people struggle with a lot is visibility. I think one of the most important things when you're first getting started is being visible to your ideal client. And a lot of people will focus more on their offer or whatever, behind the scenes stuff, right? But you don't even have to have that totally sorted. The most important thing is to get in front of the people and have your presence be known and let them know exactly who you are, what you do. And then, you can work on those things in the background.
Exactly.
But visibility often takes a back seat, and you're never going to grow if you're not visible.
Yeah. It's also great for market research. I actually sold products that don't exist yet, or events.
Yes, yeah.
My events, I make a page, but it doesn't really exist, to be honest. Sorry for the guys who are watching or listening, but it doesn't really, you create concept, you sell it, and they get validation.
Exactly.
The market wants that. Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah. And don't build out some big thing before you've proven that it's going to sell.
Yeah. To finish this, one motivational quote that keeps you always going. What is something that, when you think about that quote, yes, this gives me the power to move through difficult times as an entrepreneur.
That tomorrow's not guaranteed. Yeah. So just do what you're doing today and, live for your life today as if this is the last chance you have.
I'm so honored to be with you on this couch today. Honestly, thank you. Too. Thank you. So for the people who are listening and watching, where can they find you? And if they want to know more about how you work, how you can help business owners.
Sure. The easiest way is Instagram. My handle is at Marissa Liesenfelt. Cut off my last name there a little bit, make it easier. That's the best place.
Awesome. Yeah. Marissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're awesome. Yeah. And I love you a lot. Can I give you a hug?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.